好，我是刘斌，代表大华府浙江大学校友会，欢迎大家参加今天的求是论坛第13期放飞梦想优秀高中毕业生的分享。求是论坛公益讲座给校友朋友们带来专业交流、创新创业、亲子教育等与大家事业生活息息相关的精彩讲坛。今天我们非常有幸请来了2位校友的孩子，他们都刚刚以优异的成就录取了自己的梦想学校。他们中间有录取了宾州大学沃登商学院的创业帅才马汀湖，也有录取了耶鲁大学的科技精英 Frank Horrigan。非常感谢他们在百忙中抽时间给大家分享他们怎样成功的录取自己的梦想高校的心得和他们在中学生活中的体验和故事。他们的分享一定会为在座的学弟学妹们以及他们的家长们带来很好的启迪和受益。在讲座过程中间，请大家保持静音，有什么问题呢先写下来，然后在嘉宾分享完了，我们有 Q&A section， 到时候把你的问题呢写到这个 chat 上面啊，到时候我们有专门的那个嘉宾主持为你们一一的回答问题。不光是我们在座的2位优秀的这个毕业生们他们可以从学生的角度回答你们的问题，可能也尤其是在场的学弟学妹们你们都多听，好好听，多记笔记有什么问题到时候提下来。在座的家长们呢也可以提，我们非常有幸呢请来了2位校友，2位孩子的家长也在场大家如果对家长有关的问题呢也可以提出来。好在讲座开始前呢，我们首先有请大华府浙江大学校友会会长和大专联会长吕平博士给大家致辞欢迎吕平博士。吕博士，吕会长，你那个 mute 一下mute 一下。
Sorry 谢谢刘斌，非常感谢这个我们的求是论坛现在是第13期，教育论坛是第4期，我非常感谢我们的这2代、这3代，他们能出来分享他们的经历，而且也非常感谢他们的父母能够来跟父母交谈他们对孩子的一些互动的心得。那么这次应该是我最后一次主持浙大校友会的求是论坛，因为我马上就要把我的第9届的团队把我的担子交给我们的第10届的团队，我们赵军会长的团队，我相信他也肯定会做得很好，也希望大家继续支持我们浙大校友会的各项活动，谢谢大家。
非常感谢吕会长吕会长一手把我们这个求是论坛尤其是这个我们的浙2代的优秀毕业生的论坛这几期办得非常精彩这个他在幕后的这种贡献大家都可以看得到，我从我们的这个求是论坛质量上可以看得出来我们再次感谢吕会长。同时呢，之后吕会长在大专联把我们各个高校办得越来越好。好，下面我们有请我们的校友会副会长李浩副会长宣读一下求是论坛的免责声明，有请李浩会长。
大家好，我是李浩，现在我给大家宣读一下免责声明，欢迎大家参加由大华府浙江大学校友会主办的求是论坛，这是我们校友会的常规活动之一。求是论坛旨在为大家提供一个信息交流及探讨的平台。对于每期论坛内容声明如下：1. 求是论坛内容及所有参与者的言行仅代表其个人观点和思想，大华府浙江大学校友会不为论坛参与者分享的任何内容和言行负责。2. 求是论坛是非营利性活动，大华府浙江大学校友会及组织人员与论坛邀请的嘉宾不存在任何利益关系。感谢大家的支持和参与，感谢嘉宾前来分享和传播知识，谢谢大家有请刘斌。
好，谢谢李会长一会儿李会长和我们的这个嘉宾和我们的主持 Alice 会一起主持大家的 Q&A section 和 和这个嘉宾分享。好，下面呢我们会隆重有请我们今天讲坛的2位主角，因为他们都是中学生，我们在座的可能大家那个学弟学妹们可能对英语都是在更 comfortable， 所以我们下面 switch to the English, okay? So now let's be as an honor to introduce the next speaker, Martin Hu. Martin graduated from WT Wharton School in Virginia.
Oh, Virginia.
And he is heading to the University of Pennsylvania Wharton School. He has been an excellent entrepreneur since in the high school, and he has been co-captain of Wooden Drumlines and the owner of local non-profit organization EcoSpace. So especially during the COVID-19, he has been organized great activities. I will leave the time to Martin to share his great achievement and the tips how to get his dream school and live a great high school life. Let's welcome Martin.
Hi, everyone. My name is Martin Hu, and I am currently a graduating senior from Woodson High School at Fairfax, Virginia. And I came here to the US from China after I graduated from elementary school. So I came here in middle school, and I grew up there. I was there for 13, 14 years, and I came here and really met a lot of great people, and especially this community right here. I've been coming to every single meeting, every single forum for the past year and a half, just kind of learning from the past college seniors and people going to colleges. And I'm just very, very blessed to be here, to be the one actually sharing my stories and talking about what I've experienced. A couple of things about me. I am on the crew team. I am a rower since freshman year, basically practicing 6 months a year and 3 hours a day. We drive 30 minutes to the river and rowing with a boat full of 8 people every single day. That's basically a part of my identity. And I have my state's championship this Saturday. It's really, really deeply ingrained into my high school 4 years. It's turned me into a more resilient person and turned me into a team player, and it got me a lot of friends. And I'm also a part of band. I'm a percussionist, and also started doing that since middle school and started doing marching band in the drumline since freshman year. Met a lot of great people in there, and fortunate to become a co-captain this year. And I also started to play some drum sets and start my own band at school. It's just having fun in senior year. This is my 2 main extracurricular activities. And I also have some community services that I think those are the main things that really kept me under the radar of Wharton and really made them interested in me. Like Mr. Liu introduced, I started a nonprofit organization over quarantine. And I also was a part of leadership initiatives, which I worked with a group of people to basically help a Nigerian business owner to start a car shop. And I also just work closely for my parents for our family business, which is furniture and the sofa business. Since a very young age, I've been starting to meeting clients with my mom and literally going to every meeting since I was 3. Well, there's a lot of information I just gave out. I row, I am in the band, and I also have a lot of extra community services. But the main thing that I want to come across with everyone today is that the one thing that got me into college is me knowing exactly what I want to do since day one, me knowing exactly what my goal is. It doesn't have to be day one, but you have to find that goal and stick with it. My goal is I want to do business. I want to start my own company. I want to go to Wharton, which is my dream school, the best business school in the world. And I just stick with that goal. And I do everything that's closely related to that goal. Like I started to look for opportunities that can turn me into a better entrepreneur. That's why I signed up for leadership initiatives. That's the summer internship that really helped, that I helped the Nigerian business owner. And EcoSpace is also something closely related to business, nonprofit organization that I was fortunate to start over the quarantine, and also a lot of family business opportunities. So I just started diverge 70 to 80% of my concentration to those things that are closely related to my goal, which is I want to go to a business school. I want to go to Wharton School of Business. I think that's the one thing that made my path to the school a lot smoother. And I think that's also one of the reasons why I was fortunate enough to be accepted into Wharton. And let's talk about EcoSpace. EcoSpace, COVID-19 hit 2020, and everybody went home, and school ended. We were panicking. We didn't know what to do. And the other benefit of that is we have so much time in our hands. We just don't know how to spend it. And I was fortunate enough to get hit by some inspirations. I was like, oh, I've always wanted to do something that's environmental friendly. But the quarantine and the COVID-19 situation was like the headline that was across the world. So I had this blueprint of an organization that's environmental friendly in my head. And this COVID-19 really helped me, pushed me into turning that into execution. And what do you mean by execution? It's literally go to Google, search how to start a nonprofit organization. What do you do with a nonprofit organization? How do you raise money? What platforms can you use to raise money? And I took it step by step, one Google search after another. I started off with a GoFundMe, sending them to my social media pages. Basically, I'm raising money to purchase PPE supplies from China so I can deliver them to facilities in my neighborhood, like Innova Fairfax, like Woodson High School, like Children's National Hospital. Just you need to spend a day or two just sitting in front of your desk with a blank sheet of paper and just brainstorm the things that you feel like you're motivated to do. And really, really think about your community and the people around you, because if you can turn something of your interest and the community you live in into a combination, that's the ace in the hole. You want to do something you enjoy, but also impact the society around you. So I was fortunate enough to start this organization, raise money through GoFundMe, deliver supplies to local facilities. It sounds very out of reach, but it only took you a few steps. You go to Alibaba and look for supplies, and like 10 to 20 days, all the supplies are sitting in your house, and you deliver them to all the facilities, write a few emails, and they're always looking for more help. That's just from my own experience. And another thing I think is very crucial is that everything you do at school, every club and every like extracurricular activity you do at school, it would be nicer, just at least try to make as much friends as you can and be yourself, and try to get as many leadership roles as you can. And that thing really naturally falls in if you just become the best human, best version of yourself, and make friends along the way, and it will naturally take place. And I have a leadership role on my crew team. I have a leadership role in band. And I also was fortunate to become the officer of National Honor Society. these really take time. You just need to spend time with your friends and focus on what you want to do, and just don't worry about the leadership roles, and just focus on your own path, and these things will just come in naturally. So I think the two things that's super important to me during my application process is be extremely focused on where I want to go, what I want to do. So every activity that I participate in should be aligned with that goal. And the second thing is just get some leadership roles if you can, and really build that network, like make friends with these people, because these people will end up help you with all the projects you'll be doing, like EcoSpace. All the friends I made along the way really gave me a lot of assistance. So yeah, I think these are the two main messages that I would like to share with you today. Thank you.
So that's a great experience. So next one, I will let Hao introduce Frank.
Okay, thank you, Bin. So next, I would like to introduce our second speaker today, Frank Horrigan. Frank is heading to Yale University after graduating from Postville High School. He is the captain for chemistry club and science ball team. Frank won the U.S. National Chemistry Olympiad honors, which is very impressive. He is also one of the 2022 U.S. Presidential Scholar semifinalists. This is welcome, Frank, and please take it over.
Thank you very much for that wonderful introduction. I know Martin had a great talk, so hopefully you guys can learn a little extra from whatever I can add. Sort of one of my main points, I do really want to echo what Martin said about following your interests. I think that's really important, and that is definitely what I'm going to sort of go over today, is sort of using myself as an example of how to identify and develop your interests as you go through high school, because a lot of what getting into a selective college ultimately comes down to nowadays is your interests, and particularly how well you can express that passion that you have in your essays. So for example, I'll go over sort of how I identify my interest in chemistry, medicine, and other topics. But first, before I go into that, I do want to just emphasize that although it's your interests that differentiate you from other candidates applying to colleges, you still do need to have a strong sort of baseline of academics in terms of course selection, things like that. So I'll quickly go over that. I don't know where everyone is in the stage of their college application process, whether you're about to apply this fall or you're just starting high school. But for course selection, it's something that I was sort of forced to start thinking about actually before I went to high school, because I had to pick between going to a STEM program versus an IB program, STEM being more focused obviously on STEM, and IB being a little more writing heavy. So I went with the STEM program because that's what aligned better with my interest in science. Then for picking classes in our program, for the first 2 years, it's pretty straightforward since a lot of our schedule is set. Depending on what school you're in or program, you may need to be a little more careful about picking classes and make sure you're balancing rigor with your ability to handle it. And then in later years, junior and senior year, that's when I could really start to think more about what I want to do, and then pick classes that align with that interest a little more. So for example, I'm interested in chemistry and medicine, and so I took AP biology first, leaving things like AP physics until senior year, just so I could really confirm those interests and get them there sooner. And so taking these different classes is also a great way to be able to explore your different interests. So there's, I know especially from coming from middle school, you sort of just take science class or math class or whatever. In high school, you're able to take much more specific classes, and so take advantage of that, take a wide variety of those classes and try to really find your interest, at least that spark from those classes. And if your interests aren't covered in classes or aren't covered deep enough in the classes at school, that's not a problem at all. You can always go there. There are tons of resources on the internet, and in fact, going to seek things out. It's another really great way of demonstrating to colleges that you really have a legitimate passion for whatever you're studying, and not just you want to get an A in class. So now I'll go into my interests and how I developed those. So my main interest going into high school was science, and so this was something I developed throughout middle school and my early life, just seeing how cool science was through, like, for example, watching YouTube videos or doing science fair projects, things like that. And then in high school, through my classes and just continuing these projects and this exploration, that's when I realized that I really like chemistry. And so having identified my interest in chemistry, so I went to my first approach in sort of exploring that was simply by studying it, right? And that's sort of the initial, most straightforward approach. And so to do this, I went through an AP book to just sort of read through and just learn what I could. And also, like, preparing for the chemistry Olympiad, it sort of gave me a nice competitive way to encourage myself to really explore a lot of topics, especially topics that are, in fact, sometimes beyond like AP, or at least what's covered in AP classes. And then through studying, I also found an online community and where we were able to discuss these problems and also do other competitions there as well. And also, while looking around on the internet, I found an online chemistry course from Yale, and so it's an organic chemistry course. And that course was especially interesting because not only is it covering stuff that's going beyond what I would learn in high school, but it also introduced me to a different perspective, which is, a lot of times in school we're learning the facts, right? Memorizing the facts, or maybe sort of understanding some of the theory behind it. That class, besides obviously teaching the facts and teaching the understanding behind how to get to those observations, it also went into like the history side of how these different scientists went, what they observed to create their theories, sometimes how they argued with each other to see who's right. And so it's that different perspective that I think really just solidified my interest in chemistry. And also, not to mention, of course, when applying for Yale, I'm sure they liked it a lot when I was able to really vouch for the value of their liberal arts style education. And so through all this, all this preparation, I was able to get honors at the US Chemistry Olympiad. And overall, the point is that by really going beyond classes, looking at different avenues, finding online communities, online courses, things like that, you're really showing to the colleges that you're not just studying just for studying's sake, just to get an A or just to win a competition, but you're really studying to explore your own curiosity and to find different perspectives. And of course, getting an award could help as well. The second approach I did in exploring chemistry and science in general is by teaching and spreading that love of science that I collected over the years, spreading that to other younger students. So now when I first started high school, I joined the chemistry club. And so I was very involved in that throughout my freshman year. And actually at the end, I was made a captain. And it's kind of similar to how Martin was saying, you really just focus on doing the best that you can, and sometimes, things will sort of fall to you. In that case, with that leadership opportunity, I really didn't expect it at all. In fact, they didn't tell me that they were going to make me captain until when they announced it. And so really, it wasn't anything I was expecting, but it's just something that fell upon me because I was very much involved in that club, and people can see when you're really interested in something. And so besides the benefit of improving my leadership and organization abilities, and also having the chemistry club gives me an avenue to be able to spread my love of chemistry in terms of teaching and doing experiments. Also, when COVID comes around, since a lot of our work was doing experiments, things that you can't really replicate in a virtual setting, it also helped me with becoming more adaptable. And so being able to sort of change what we're doing in order to fit our new medium of communication. Also, starting in 10th grade, I began teaching a class to elementary school age kids, where I made my own curriculum about the elements. And again, that's just a different way of being able to explore my interest in science, really demonstrating that I have a deep understanding, at least in the fundamentals that I'm teaching. And of course, no one's going to voluntarily teach things that they aren't interested in. So, again, it really shows the colleges that you're really involved in whatever it is that you're teaching. So then the third way that I approached science is through research. And of course, research is a large component of science. If you do end up becoming a scientist, that's very likely what you'll be doing a lot of the time. So it really is a big component. And so initially I was too young to do like real lab work. And so instead I sort of explored my interest through kitchen chemistry projects and also computational projects. And so it wasn't until the summer after my 10th grade that I cold emailed some researchers and ended up interning at a large computational chemistry lab. And so that was my first real research experience. And with that project in particular, although I entered with sort of a certain assignment, essentially, where they wanted me to repeat a certain process over the different molecules they're studying, I ended up actually making my own project when I realized that process, there's one step that's not very efficient and that it could be automated. In order to do that, I went and learned some basics of machine learning to apply it to that problem. And I was able to present a poster at an international conference about it. And so with that, it's really demonstrating that ability to think creatively, and also to be able to effectively communicate my ideas to others. Because in this position, I was just the high school summer intern, and my PI is a world-renowned expert in this field. And so I did have to do a lot of work to be able to convince him that what I have is indeed a good idea and that I should pursue it. And then this past summer, I applied to and was accepted to the NIH summer internship program, which was virtual due to COVID. And so I developed a tool for the lab I was in for data analysis. And then also there are some other steps in there that I found and automated, and I'll be returning back this summer. And so overall, essentially, by approaching chemistry and science with these three different ways of studying it, teaching it, and also researching, it shows not just my passion by getting really involved in it, but also my ability to actually think creatively and innovate, even if it's nothing groundbreaking, right? Just tools that help my mentors do their jobs more effectively. It still really shows, like the people in admissions, that I am able to think and not just sort of follow the instructions down to the letter. Though of course, I am still the mentee, that is still an important thing to do. Another sort of side tangent, if you are interested in chemistry, in science in general, I do recommend learning to program because computational skills are very important. A lot of my projects were computational, and even through that, I realized that I don't exactly like pure computer science of coding just for coding's sake and doing that. But still, I do like the application to science and health. And so if that's what you're interested in as well, it's an important skill to learn. And so another interest I have is in medicine, right? And so this is more of a career-related interest. Science is as well. But for medicine, so I started volunteering at a local hospital in the summer after my 9th grade. And so this opportunity gave me a lot of nice patient interaction, but still left me wanting to do more. And so I signed up for my local fire station and the EMT class offered through there. I also shadowed an oncologist. And so that shadowing experience combined with the many ambulance rides I've gone on as a now certified emergency medical technician, that reinforced my interest in having patient interaction and really confirmed that medicine is a way that I want to go in terms of my career. Of course, besides confirming my interest in my career, these volunteering opportunities also provide a way to make a tangible impact on my community. Not to mention, of course, the EMT class is quite a challenge on top of everything that I was doing in terms of my classes, extracurriculars, and I also did it during my college applications. So confirmed that that I am able to handle these stressful workloads. That being said, I do not exactly encourage you to take EMT class on top of your college applications, but it is possible, and I don't regret it at all. And besides these interests related to my career, I think it's still important to have non-career related interests. Not only does it make life more fun, it also just makes you more well-rounded, gives you more opportunities to meet different people, and just makes you more interesting. And in fact, talking with like a lot of my future classmates, I found it's very common where someone who's extremely accomplished in one particular area, they still do other things because they find it fun. And so, for example, for me, I play violin. So I've been doing that since 1st grade. I'm in the MCYO, a local youth orchestra. Some of you may have heard of it or maybe in it, I'm not sure. I'm also the concertmaster of our school orchestra. Another interest I have is in entrepreneurship. So this started for me when I was really young, watching a show called Biz Kids on PBS Kids. I don't know if it's still there or if any of you have seen it, but that's what got me interested. And early in high school, I was involved in like a business summer camp and like a startup pitch kind of competition. Towards the end of high school, I sort of pushed this aside, but of course, I still was able to satisfy like that desire for like innovation through things like research. Another interest I have is in my chickens. So this started when I went to visit my aunt in Vermont. She has 4 chickens that she had at the time. And so I just thought they were really fun animals to be around. And they, of course, having fresh eggs every morning is definitely a plus. So that's what inspired me to get chickens. And so with those chickens, I filmed some videos, playing with them and sort of having fun with that. But it's also built responsibility in terms of caring for them, and particularly sometimes in pretty stressful situations, because chickens, they're outside. While we do as much as we can to protect them, they are still vulnerable. And so, like, for example, there's once one of my hens was attacked by a hawk. So she had, these huge cuts across her chest and back. And so I had to go and really drop everything I was doing to seal up her wounds, and then nurse her back to health in a little cardboard box hospital in the garage. So overall, the message that I want you to take home, as cheesy as it may sound, is to be yourself. And really do as much as you can to get a deep dive into your interests and explore them from different angles. Like I mentioned, chemistry, through like studying it, teaching it, doing research. And I think if you can really prove to yourself that it's something that you care about, you should be able to communicate that to admissions. Also, it's very easy to fall into the trap of seeing someone with similar interests and then sort of trying to, who was successful, and trying to copy what they do. But I don't think that's really necessary. I mean, of course, it can give you a good sort of template to follow, but just sort of committing yourself to trying to follow that can really just make your life miserable. But yeah, and so, even if you don't follow what other people are doing, you can still find success as long as you really follow your own interests. And even if you don't find success in the college application process, as long as you really develop those interests and those skills, you'll be able to find success anyways. So thank you very much.
Okay, I really want to thank Frank and Martin for the very interesting and wonderful sharing. So now next, I want to invite our student host, Alice. Alice, can you unmute yourself and start to host the Q&A sections? Thank you.
Okay. Greetings, everyone. Good evening. My name is Alice Zhu. It's my honor to be the moderator for this Q&A section for this live panel discussion. And I would like to start off the Q&A section with a question from me. As a junior student in high school who is about to start the application process in this summer, I would like to ask our two incredible friends for their suggestions and advice for some of the questions that I came up with. And I hope all these questions will be beneficial for everyone. So the first question is, while considering the fact that there are several categories of admission: early decision, early action, restricted early action, and regular decision, how would you recommend these different types for students when applying to colleges? Martin, could you start us off?
Absolutely. Well, the number one thing you should do is definitely pick schools that you have well researched and really know very clear that once you get in there, once you pick this major, or you don't know the major, once you get into this campus, you will actually enjoy it. That's the number one rule. And because from my personal experience, ED and EA do give you an advantage, but you have to be 100% sure that this is school you want to go before you put that in this category. And my own experience, I put UPenn as ED, and I put UVA and Michigan as EA. I put UPenn as ED, number one, because it is my number one dream school. And I've heard a lot of advice from other like from my parents and from other guidance counselors saying, I don't have a great chance into getting into UPenn Wharton. Maybe I should go with a more conservative route and put like Georgetown as my ED or NYU as my ED. But I loved the campus. I loved UPenn, and I am confident enough that to get into one of the EA schools. So ED comes first, EA comes next. So as long as you have a safety school or two that you feel like fits you and will make you happy, I would recommend going for your ultimate goal for an early decision, because that's the one school, if you make it, you can't say yes to any other schools, and might as well go for your dream school.
Thank you for sharing, Martin. It's important because ED actually increased the chance that you can get into school. So it's important that you put your number one favorite school to your ED decision. So Frank, what do you think about this question?
Yeah, I definitely agree that you really want to, especially for ED, since you're really locked into just one place you have to go if you get in. That in that case, you really just have to go with what you really want, because sometimes it'll work, and of course those will be really great. And really, especially with ED, you definitely don't want to go somewhere that put your ED somewhere that you're not completely satisfied with, in case that you do get in and you get locked in and you sort of just have that regret of what if I really went for my dream. So definitely I agree in that aspect. Go for your dream. For me, my sort of top schools that I was interested in, none of them were ED. So for me, I naturally fell into, do I want to do restricted early action, which I did ultimately for Yale, or do I want to do regular early action at some other schools where there's less limitations? And so that ultimately was just coming down to what I was most interested in again. But also, if there are several schools that are, say, restricted early action or early action, you're not sure which one you want to apply to, then in that case, since you're not bound if you do get in, you can sort of pick a little more strategically of like, well, maybe I want to go to this one a little bit more, but I think I'm more likely to get into this other one. Because one of the main benefits of EA, it doesn't really like help as much as like if you do ED, where they actually really boost your chances. With EA, is sort of a less of an effect in that regard, and more of the benefit is just knowing early. And so in that case, if you can lock in a safety one and then really go for your, the one that you like a little bit better, in that case, that's an option for you. Another thing is just for a lot of state schools, if you're thinking of applying to any state schools, I recommend for those doing them early, because that's usually when they give out a lot of scholarships. And I know particularly for the University of Maryland, they take like 90% of their class from the early application pool. So you definitely want to apply early, because it's possible if you apply regular, you might not even get in, when originally you would have had a great chance. And of course, they offer, all their scholarships are offered in their early application route. So yep, that's my thoughts on that.
Thank you, Martin. Those are very helpful information. So right now I would like to ask a question from our participants. The question says, can we apply to colleges with ED and EA together? Does applying early increase your chance? And about the pros and cons of ED and EA. Thank you, Mel, for your question. And this time I would like to ask Frank to start us off with about this question.
Sure. So I didn't do ED, so I'm not as familiar with that, but I do believe you're able to do ED and non-restrictive early action together. But of course, if you get in ED, you have to go there, barring like extreme like financial situation. Applying early, so applying early decision definitely helps because you're locked in, and so I mean the colleges essentially know like if they accept you, they'll be able to collect your tuition and things like that. So they do early decision. For early action, it's more of you're demonstrating your interest, and although like the acceptance rate is higher than regular, it's important to qualify that, just knowing that like early is also when a lot of, say, like recruited athletes and people who are really passionate or maybe legacy applicants to those schools are applying. And so generally like the early application acceptance rate will be higher, but a lot of that is due to just that being a stronger pool. And so you, but of course it does have the benefit that you find out much earlier, and so that can save you time and money in later applications. If you get in your dream school, you don't have to apply anymore. And also, just of course, the relief that you get from knowing that you're into a college that you like.
Thank you, Frank, for sharing us with this information. Martin, do you have any suggestions for us?
Frank pretty much covered everything. If I want to add one like pros and cons of ED&EA from my own perspective, if you want to apply ED&EA, you need to be ahead of the game in your college applications, because the essays are due November 1st, or the best time will, like some better ones will probably be December 1st. In comparison to regular decision, they're always after January 1st. So you just get like a month or two less in terms of prepping your applications. So you need to be really ahead of your game if you want to apply at any school for ED.
Thank you. Now I would like ask another question. So regarding the recent situation due to the impact of the pandemic, many schools are planning a test option policy. However, schools, for example, MIT, has decided to bring up the test scores submission. Under these circumstances, do you still recommend students sending standardized test scores? Martin, could you start us off?
I actually didn't send in my test score. I got a 1490 on my SAT. Compared to a lot of friends around me, it's not the best score. And compared to other friends around me, it's a great score. So can't really evaluate that. But based out of UPenn standard, it's probably below the medium. So we just didn't submit it. And I don't know if that contribute to any of my acceptance, but I did prep for SAT for a whole year. When I started grinding on the booklets, I took classes, and the score just wasn't the best in terms of UPenn standard. I just didn't submit it, and I ended up getting in. But I can't really tell you whether there's a correlation. But definitely try your best on the standardized test. Getting a good score that definitely will benefit you.
Thank you for sharing your experience with us. Frank, do you have anything to say about this topic?
Yeah, I totally agree. It's sort of one of those things where you should just take it. And if it ends up being a great score, then it can help you. And if it ends up not being up to your standards, then you just don't submit it. And it's not something that, as long as they're offering that option of being test optional, it's not something that will hurt you. Another thing to just sort of note with like in terms of taking the SATs also, besides, for colleges, there are also other opportunities that can be opened up through those standardized tests, for example, like National Merit or the US Presidential Scholars. So just keep that in mind as well, where, even if you don't submit it to school, it can still help you in other ways.
Thank you, Frank. I guess we still have time for a few more questions, so I'll continue asking our guest speakers more questions. As we might know, several components constitute a good application. How do colleges evaluate students' application regarding the different aspects such as test scores, GPA, grade trend, strengths of schedule, extracurricular participation, essays, letters of recommendation, and etc. that makes up the application as a whole? How would you weigh the importance of these different components? Martin, would you like to begin?
Sure. I can't really rank them on the top of my head. I'll give you certain information. GPA and course difficulty are probably the baseline. If you want to get into some dream school of yours or prestigious schools, you want to maintain a solid GPA. You want to take a pretty decent amount of AP courses. With that being said, the course selection also had difficulty, and also they have to have a strong correlation with what you're interested in. You have to show them that you're taking courses that make sense, that really align with what you want to do in college. And application process, you have the resume, you have the recommendation, but I think the essay is extremely important. I think it's probably among the top of the list. My tips of writing the essay: stay authentic, really show who you are as a person. Tell them a story that is very real. I just be yourself. Tell them a relatable story. Tell them a story that's from your heart, and make sure that story is definitely aligned with what you're interested in. That's my main goal. Just be extremely authentic. Don't use too much, like, literally like some just don't add too much unnecessary colors into your essay, and just write it as if you're telling somebody a story and about yourself. That's, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, thank you very much, Martin, for sharing us with this information. Frank, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I mean, again, it's hard to say since I don't work in the admissions office. I haven't seen any of that. But I definitely agree that with what Martin said, where the sort of the academics form your sort of baseline, and then it's your essays, your extracurriculars. That's what really differentiates who gets in and who doesn't. Because I mean, there are a lot of people who have like a solid academic background that qualifies them for these schools. And yeah, so with the essays, again, sort of reiterating what Martin said, be authentic, but also, again, it is an essay. You want to present the best version of yourself. So do edit it, but of course, while you're editing, be careful to still be authentic in that, still have your voice in there. Also, there are certain essays that you'll be able to easily recycle across schools, but the one essay that you really have to start fresh each school is the why this school essay, because that's what really shows the school. Because I mean, the school will have tons of people, way more than they could fit in one class, who are not only qualified, but like super qualified to be in their school. And what separates those people is who they think would be like the most happy and who they think would excel most in their particular environment. So it's really important to take that why us essay seriously.
Yes, I agree. Because essay defines kind of give college an insight into what's you as a person. So definitely you should make yourself and your personality stand out in your tone and voice and the syntax you used. So a question is coming up in chat. Is from Scarlett Chen. Thank you for asking this question. So the question is, how did you survive the transition to high school? Because sometimes there are certain trends that is hard to catch up to. This is a very good question. So Frank, I would ask if you can start us off on that.
Sure. So I think a lot of it is in terms of like sort of difficult transitions. I guess one, obviously going from middle school to high school can be a jump in difficulty and stress. One thing to really work on, and again, it's okay if it's not perfect, it's something that you just want to develop, is your ability to manage time. And so, that can help alleviate the stress if you're able to better like separate, work and play. I mean, I think really it's just important to be able to have a good group of friends around you, because a lot of times you won't be the only person who's having a certain difficulty, right? It might be one class that's particularly difficult. Well, you have a bunch of classmates in that class who are experiencing the same thing as you. And so you can use those, your peers around you and your shared difficulties. And so really use that as support, and you're able to like work through these issues together.
Thank you, Frank. Friends can definitely support us in how we overcome difficulties and hardships. Martin, do you have some more advices and as like add on to that?
Read a lot of books, and I think one of the most difficult transition from middle school to high school is the AP courses. Like the first time I took an AP course, I was overwhelmed by the amount of reading I had to take and just the course difficulty and just the amount of content. So really start reading. You can just read whatever, magazines, newspapers, a book that you like, just get the volume in, and it will make life a lot easier when you start taking AP courses. That's the main thing, I think. Yeah.
Thank you. Yes, I agree. AP courses, especially those very focused on humanities, are very reading heavy, and you have to manage reading a ton of text in a very short amount of time. That can be very stressful and a challenge for especially middle school students.
So Alice, can I ask a question from the chat?
Yeah, definitely, Mr. Lee. Go ahead.
Yeah, so someone is writing in Chinese, like, I will try to translate it.
既然是中文问的问题，我们就用中文问吧。我看我们在座的这两位家长都在，一个是 Martin 的父亲那个 Hank 和这个 Frank 的妈妈这个罗行健我们的罗校友都在哈，我们家长也欢迎参与尤其是有的家长如果觉得这个那个英文 communication 没有中文这个滑溜的话，欢迎你在这个或者 unmute yourself，unmute 你自己，或者那个就用中文问问题。好，不好意思打断一下哈，那个李会长请。
谢谢刘斌会长。对，那这个问题就给两个家长吧，就是我们的汉克校友，还有那个娄行健校友，就是请问你觉得在申请过程中推荐信的作用大吗？如何寻找推荐人？Hank，要不你先来。
来 Hank， 你的 unmute 一下，你那个
你要 unmute。
这个问题，Martin 在申请大学的时候，这种推荐人啊什么，都是他自己，我们家长全部，让 Martin 自己去弄，我们也不管。
好，现在请 Martin 用中文，Martin 中文也不错的，用中文回答一下。
主科老师选基本上都选主科老师，我选了数学老师，我选了英语老师，然后这是第一个，就是选老师的第一个基本的准则。第二的话，一定要跟老师，就是说一定要选那些跟你平常像朋友一样的老师，他们平常下课之后还可以跟你聊聊天，或者是说email 来回很频繁的，真的能够跟你就是说能讨论到除了学校之外学校以外的东西，跟你就是都能讨论的聊得开的这些老师是最适合做你的推荐信的。然后因为这些老师会更了解你的日常生活，更了解你是怎么样的一个人，这样写推荐信的话会写得更真实，更加compelling。
谢谢 Martin。那我们的娄行健校友，你要讲两句吗？娄校友，请 unmute 一下。
我这个推荐信，我跟 Hank 一样，也是 Frank 自己弄的，但是我 Frank， they ask about recommendation letters. Do you have any experience to share?
Yeah. So I think definitely having good recommendation letters can be really helpful. So like for me, I think one of my best recommendation letters came from my chemistry teacher because I was very much involved in the chemistry club and just that general area, which of course he's interested in as well. And actually, I think it was before I got my acceptance letter, he actually told me that he was emailed by the admissions office, like asking if he actually wrote my recommendation letter. So I think it's definitely something that they look into and that they value. Obviously, though, I don't know exactly what he wrote. I don't know what any of my recommenders wrote, but I do know that, like Martin said, you really have to be able to converse with them so that they can really give you, they can really vouch for you in ways, not just within, oh, this person did really well in my class.
好的，谢谢谢谢。还有一个问题
我就是
关于
我可以就 add
不好
a
意思
little bit to 这个推荐信。我想推荐信肯定是很重要的 ，Frank 讲的，因为他在耶鲁录取他之前耶鲁到他的学校去 confirm 那个推荐信的东西。但是呢，我想推荐信也不是唯一的东西，因为像 UC System、UC Berkeley、UCLA 这些学校也是很不错的，他们是不接受推荐信的。那Frank 也都被录取了，所以我想不是唯一的，就这么讲，就 add 一点这个。
好的，谢谢罗学姐。那现在还有一个就是说问题是请请小家们自己或者家长，可能主要是针对家长嘛，就是说你们对升学指导的作用是怎么看的？需要就是说进行升学指导吗？主要是讲校外这方面的，就是请问大家有没有用过这方面的服务？要不 Hank 你先来。
好的，校外辅导这一块就是主要是针对孩子的一个状况吧。他如果是在学业上有一些不足的地方，我觉得是校外辅导这个东西还是蛮有必要的，只会锦上添花嘛，让他有一些学业方面啊什么东西都能巩固一下，基础会扎实一点。校外辅导这一块我Martin还是参加的，我们参加了一个校外的一个专业是 C2 的那个培训机构，然后外面嘛还有他自己像校划船队啊、乐队啊这种都在坚持，这种对孩子的成长都有帮助的。我就讲这么一些。
好，谢谢罗学姐。
对刚刚那个我同意汉克讲，就是这个是根据小孩的需要，像我们以前也是觉得像大家都去 C2 是不是考 SAT 什么东西需要去 C2 但是 Frank 就坚决不去，然后他们的同学都不去，所以刚才就像 Frank 讲的，这个可能也跟小孩的环境有关系，就是你要给小孩什么吧，是需要小孩需要的。我的想法就是说，如果做家长的话，其实可能最大的到高中以后的要转变，就是说你要把你的角色转变成一个 supporting 的角色，我觉得这样对小孩可能是最有益的。至于什么需要什么不需要，那个就是看你的小孩需要什么，不是千篇一律的，不是每个小孩都是一样的，有的小孩需要这些，有的小孩需要那些，有的小孩他什么都不需要，他就需要朋友所以我觉得最好就是听小孩，小孩说想要什么的时候，你就去帮他找，小孩说不需要，你就不要去操心，越操心越反而出问题，我觉得是这样啊。从周围的情况看一下是这个情况，我觉得。所以我一直跟儿子讲说，我说我是你的 assistant， 你有什么需要的时候告诉我，我能帮你的我就去帮你。
谢谢，我觉得非常同意啊，非常同意两位家长的这个就是说说法，对于小孩自己的个性的发展和他们的支持真的是非常的重要。那Alice， 我们的时间也超了不少了，要不我们的 Q&A，let's finish the Q&A here. Is that okay?
I actually got a question, a direct message to me, so a question specifically for Frank. So could you extend the time a little bit, since I guess
sure. Please go ahead.
Yeah, since it's a direct message to Frank. So this question is for Frank. Did you start volunteering at hospital, fire station since middle school or high school? How many volunteer hours did you work through during high school?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So with a lot of like healthcare related volunteering, it's difficult to get started in middle school because of minimum age requirements. So like at the hospital, I started after 9th grade or before 9th grade, one or the other. That was like the earliest that I was able to start, I think, because they had a minimum age of like 14 or 15. And so you have to work within that. Fire station, again, I believe the minimum age is 16. to get involved in that. So that'll be what, 10th or 11th grade. In terms of volunteer hours, so with the hospital, so I was there for a little under a year before we got sent home due to the pandemic. So with that, I think I had around, I think a little under 100 hours with that. And then for the fire department, I have significantly more. I don't have an exact number, but I estimate around, say like probably 200-300 hours, especially because actually probably, yeah, on the higher end of that, because during the class, at least in Maryland, I'm not sure in other states in the area, you're required to, in order to get certified, you have to do like write reports on 10 different calls. And so to do that, you have to sit at the station for quite a while waiting to get those calls. And so that takes quite a bit of time. And then of course, after, getting certified, still have to go back and, ride along. And also with the fire station in particular, you're not just there to be an EMT, right, to ride along in the ambulance, but you're also there to be sort of like an active member in that community in terms of helping them run events like weekend barbecues or things like that. So it's not just limited to patient interaction experience. But overall, I definitely really like the fire station experience. There's a really great community there. Also, being an EMT, you meet a lot of very interesting people. So like, for example, in my EMT class, we had, an economist, an IT specialist. Interestingly, we also had a physician in our class who's, because he wanted to go on the fire engine, so you have to be an EMT first. But you really get to meet a lot of interesting people that way. And so I really highly recommend that.
Thank you. Forming important social network is also a very good enrichment. Mr. Lee, I saw a question coming up in chat in Chinese. Would you like to take a hold on that?
好的，Thank you。现在我们这个 chat 里面有一个问题是，请问兴趣爱好在学校里面，就是说对于得奖的话，对于申请大学的帮助大吗？这个主要是看高中学习成绩，或者是标准化考试，还是看你对于这个就是其他的兴趣爱好的得奖？ Do you need the translation?
Well, I can sort of go for like in terms of winning awards. I think it definitely adds to your application, and you do want to be able to show that you've put a lot of effort into something and you are somewhat good at it. But also I think they do recognize that just because you didn't win a competition doesn't mean that you're not good at something or that you're not very interested in it. And particularly for something like research, where like the judging can be quite subjective in terms of what people are interested in and what they think is like a hot topic. And so I think the admissions people do understand that there is a bit of like luck involved in terms of winning those competitions. But it definitely does add to your application.
Yeah. Martin, do you have anything to add?
我可以用中文说。那我高中4年以来，其实现在想想，我的乐队和我划船队，我其实什么奖都没拿到，我真的一个奖都没拿到。真正的话，我是觉得我大概在高3的时候会发现，我在乐队和在划船队并没有办法去拿那种 highest reward， 那我就把很多的时间从里面抽出来，放在更加 就是说对我的未来有帮助，对我的未来就是说我更感兴趣的地方，就比如说就是 spend more time in non-profit organization 或者 business， 那我就把这时间抽出来放在里面了。但是我觉得如果你真的想要在某一个兴趣爱好上，在高中想取得成绩，你想花很多时间进去，如果你觉得有信心，争取去得一个state level or even higher national level award, these I think weigh a lot in terms of your total application. Just the minimum threshold, 至少最好要拿一个州级别的奖。如果觉得拿不到，就最好换一个方向，不要去花很多时间在里面，就为了拿一个奖，但又拿不到。
谢谢两位小嘉宾的精彩分享，还有谢谢我们的那个家长的分享，还有我们的 Alice 这个非常棒的主持。那现在刘斌，我把指挥棒交给你了，谢谢。
好，这个真是意犹未尽啊，好像我们刚刚才开始哈，真是舍不得让我们两位嘉宾走啊，很多问题啊，群里面可能还有很多问题就不能一一回答了。大家知道啊，这个 week 正好是 AP 的这个最紧张的考试日期。他们两位嘉宾，包括我们今天的主持 Alice， 他们下周一、下周二很可能就要马上去准备 AP 考试。再次感谢他们在这个百忙中间真的是抽时间给大家分享哈。说我从你们的分享中间，尽管我的孩子已经上大学了，已经毕业了哈，但是看到这个就是说，一个成功的这个学生哈 ，to be yourself 啊，你们都是自己有自己的 passion，and also has a big beyond yourself。对吧？你比自己更大，你们会想到 community， 看到 society， 你们的 project， 你们的 passion， 所以非常 inspired by 你们。最后，我请你们二位一个人就讲1-2句话，给我们下面这个你们的后辈们吧，啊，学弟学妹们，对这个大学申请或者整个中学生活，有些什么 tips， 就1-2句话总结一下，好吧？我先请 Martin。
In English, ask yourself every other day, not every day, like. What do you want to do? What do you want to do? I know it's a generic question, but ask yourself, what do you want to do? And really think about what you will do as an adult. Start thinking, okay, when I'm in my 20s, what do I want to do? When I'm in my 30s, what do I want to do? And stick with that goal and don't change it. Let's see where it takes you. Just go from there. And it might change in the future, but think about what you want to do and stick with that for now. And it will bring you a lot of great benefits.
Great. You pursue your dream, a clear dream, then you'll get there eventually, right? Thank you, Martin. Frank, let's share your tips.
Yeah, I think just follow your interests, explore them from different angles and explore different interests as well. At the very least, you might find something is something that you don't like, and so you know not to go in that direction anymore. But yeah, just really, explore your interests deeply and make sure that you can get those interests across on your application, right? Really use your essays effectively to explain, why you're interested in something, what you've done to explore that interest. And I guess besides that, just good luck. I mean, there are a lot of very qualified people, and there aren't enough spots. So, there is a bit of luck involved. But if you really, really make your passions clear, definitely that's the best you can do to increase your chances.
Yes, you make your high school fun, very fun experience. You pursue your interest, open your mind. And by the way, both of you are very good artists, right? Martin play drums and Frank play violin. So the next year, I kind of book for you guys our New Year celebration. Each of you has to give us 一个节目敲鼓的或 violin 哈。Thank you very much. 我们下面有请我们的李浩会长给这个嘉宾发致谢我把这个 slides 发出来哈。
好，非常感谢这个我们的小嘉宾 Martin 呢，这个是首先我们有校友会代表校友会给你发一个这个certificate of appreciation， 然后我们同时也有 就是 gift card 奖励，作为这个校友会的奖学金，相当于是对，希望你们在大学里面能够有非常好的发展。下一个对，也是对 Frank， 我们也有就感谢你的精彩分享，然后我们同时有这个 Certificate of Appreciation 和gift card 希望你在Yale 有非常好的发展。同时我们也感谢我们的小主持爱丽丝树非常棒，真的是台风稳健以后可以经常来参加校友会的主持。
maybe 这个下面一年下一届的求是论坛的孩子分享 ，Alice 肯定是其中一个嘉宾之一哈。Wish you good luck， 都申请到你的 Dream School。好，真是难舍难分啊哈！我们这是求是论坛第13期啊，就要拉出这个尾波了哈。这个再次感谢嘉宾在百忙中抽时间给大家分享也也非常感谢大家这个参与我们的这个讲座哈。我们这个求是论坛以后还有各种各样的这个非常精彩的讲坛，然后1年以后我们每年都有这个校友之旅的这个精彩分享哈，期待你们以后参加我们的这个讲坛。好，那我们今天讲坛就到此结束，大家再见，晚安，拜拜。
请嘉宾们和家长们留一下我们最后大家在的那个，还有我们校友会的组织的人员take 一个 screenshot，take
一个合影好吧？对，
我们来一个合影好吗？对，谢谢。我看是，哎呦，萍姐上来了，
等一会儿，我等一下，我腰有点痛，刚刚从那个躺着再等一会儿，不能那么难。今天
摆一下 pose，妙，哎呀，来，来，我来那个，因为我停止 recording 了，对，所以我来 take 一个 screenshot。
今天大家分享都太棒了，谢谢。真是很快啊，其实时间过得很快，
我们还是过
1个多小时，
时间过了是吧？
太快了
时间过了一点，但是
正好，其实大家都听得意犹未尽。
这样哈，我是听了他们讲的，我是特别有感受，特别是马丁这个例子哈，说实在，他就是他的 pension 非常好，那小孩从小就是说，跟他的做 business 爸爸妈妈，另外呢。他自己就是知道他要什么，他要做什么，他并不是在于我要什么活动，我有什么东西，我有什么奖，对他来说这个都不重要，重要的是他喜欢这个事情，而且他自己就是他的目标就在那里，所以我觉得他这一点比我儿子好好多。虽然我那时候儿子什么成绩都第1名啊，什么东西，但是他自己目标到现在说实在，他还不是特别明确，所以每个小孩是不一样的。所以我本来想讲一下，后来想想我就不讲了，因为我就觉得马丁这一点特别好。他的 determination， 这点是我觉得很多，因为马丁到底不像我们那个 ABC 的孩子，他过来他肯定有点 struggle， 但是呢，他就这两个结合的很好，我觉得，把中国的孩子的优点跟这边给他的那个，怎么说呢？这边给他的那个优势哈，他都结合起来了，所以说我觉得他的家庭环境还有他的爸爸，也给了他很多的帮助，因为我就觉得汉克其实我是不认识。但后来他就非常积极参与我们很多活动，而且带着小孩来参与，所以马丁呢都非常主动，所以我就这一点觉得马丁Wharton他要他是对了，真的是对了，因为孩子肯定要有 pension， 这一点我特别有感受，我就觉得，因为本来我想马丁，哎呦，我天，这个 Wharton 很难进啊，特别难进，那么他又想去试，说明他自己有自信，另外他确实有他的 unique 的东西。这个美国的大学，我觉得还是看这个 unique 的东西，特别是小中南能进那么好的学校，真是不容易，我特别祝贺哈。那个关于 Frank 的话，他当然是学霸一枚哈。另外呢，他也是我知道一点点哈，他的那个要学医啊，非常 determined。另外呢，他本身已经就是说，已经得奖了，这方面他就是那种妥的学霸。所以我觉得 Frank 以前肯定be a very good doctor，我相信的这一点。我先生那时候跟我说，他说那个孩子很认真，什么事情做得很认真，就是很有那种做 doctor 的职责，所以我就 congratulations， 真的非常棒。 而且我还有一个就是，我觉得以前我们的求师论坛人都非常多，但是那时候都是周末人家多一点。现在我们明年我们这个时间可能要再选一下，
选周末，对，
选周末。另外呢，选在哪个时间？今天有3个讲座，一个是法律讲座，一个是 health 讲座啊，刚好就是那么巧。但是今年是有点特点，但是我觉得如果没听的话，他们是可惜了。我看到YouTube有人上来，对他们可惜了。我们小孩真的很棒，你看，特别 Alice 我还要说一下，特别棒做的，因为他也是第一次主持嘛，以后就真的小孩就锻炼，就像去年马丁也来主持了哈。那么今年你看他讲得很好，所以我们都根本都不太要用，我们2个大的当然不用说了，都很有经验哈，刘斌啊、李浩，我们做那么多了，所以我就觉得特别好，非常感谢，真的，那个大佬的那个 Hank， 真的你们培养2个 great kids， 特别棒，而且他们出来分享，我就特别感谢这一点，因为今天还有几个孩子，他们就觉得他们就不想，他们不太敢出来分享，其实他们也特别也是很不错的学校，说到这一点呢，我就觉得我的儿子很厉害，因为去年我都觉得你们是叫他来分享，我说他那个是失败的经验的，虽然他各个方面都很好，但是呢，他说妈妈你不能给我决定的，我要去分享的。哎，从这一点我就觉得他非常自信，而且他自己也是本来就是喜欢那个东西，所以今天我也觉得就是说，不管哪个学校，只要 fit 自己的都是最好的。特别是对这个真的是共勉，我自己很有体会。那个我儿子也是明年马上就毕业，他也现在做得非常棒，自己就是学校也很喜欢，就是说其实美国的学校说实在，只要你自己觉得 feel good 或者是你 fit 的话，可能都会有很好的college life。我要祝贺你们，还有great college life。那以后再回来讲哈，等你们像马丁哈，successful businessman 那过来再回来讲一下，好吧？还有那个 Alex，那个 Frank， 哎呀，一会 be a good doctor, great doctor, specialty some doctors, and then you can come back and talk to our alumnus. That's in the future.
immediately， 明年我们春节联欢晚会，你们每个人要出个节目。
对，
定下来了，预定了。
刚刚讲了，就是刘斌，这个太好了，他 musician， 他们可以合作来一个，真的。他们现在网上也可以，我们网上传一个就可以了嘛，对吧？如果那个不在家，
那时候忙的话，对，传一个你们的节目。
他们在家，为什么呢？这个都是我们中国新年的时候，他们都在学校里嘛，可以晚上来个 video 嘛，我们就放一下。其实我觉得特别棒，真的，这个 idea 特别棒，
对，Frank， 特别是你喜欢化学 ，I'm a chemist。对，我在 NIH 的时候有好几个学生都是 MD、PhD。对，所以说希望你这就是将来能够成为一个 very successful MD、PhD and doctor。
对，又做研究啊，又做医生。对，
马挺就不用跟我说了，以后这个大公司肯定开的，
我们
自己开个大公司，
他赞助了嘛，以后。
那可你听不听得懂？又做研究又做 doctor 什么意思？
就是 physician scientist。这个我知道，对，we have a lot of kids. They are MD, PhD. From my alumni association, I know that, and they like research, so they decide to go to the MD, PhD program. A lot of them, they are girls actually. They are girls. My daughter want to be the MD, PhD, but I firmly against because I don't want her. Do that way. It's too much for a girl. I still think it's too much. But if you are MD, PhD, you will be the physics scientist. I think you will be the leader for sure. The future leader, they always should be training the very helpful formal training of the PhD research and then have the MD training. So you guys will be the formal medical leader and the people to kill the cancer, right? Kill the cancer.
Innovation, which will extend our life.
对，
我们都可以活到100多岁哈，都靠你们的这些技术。
Very few chemistry PhD and MD. So if and those people are very special in clinical trials and other studies, so they need strong
对，我是真的是很多孩子，现在好多校友的孩子都是 MD PhD 女孩子，哇，好多我认识的全是都喜欢去做那个，所以 it's really good. So Frank, wish you the best.
好嘞，我们大家都挥挥手哈，这照
好
美美的照片，
谢谢
大家看着镜头
谢谢谢谢。
谢谢大家。
乱说啊，
照张相，照张相哈，看着镜头，我们一起 capture 一下啊，1、2、3，好，我看看哈。
Thank you, everybody. Good night. See you
Good
Saturday. See you Saturday. 那个
Good
March，
night
太棒了，拜拜。
真棒真棒，
谢谢哈 ，Good luck for your exam 啊，你们下周还考试了。
对，你们赶紧走，你们赶紧，
拜拜哈，再见了哈，
拜，
拜。
辛苦，
拜拜。
好棒呢，我躺了一会儿了哈，我吃不消了，我就躺在地上。
是吧？你这个
我不是那个腰不行嘛，
哎呀，萍姐你这个太辛苦了。对我们这个时间还是以后可能不能在平时，真的是对。
要礼拜，
很多小孩都是平时都有活动，
对的，而且都有活动。说实在，确实是，礼拜六人家还讲不定明天还考试呢。但是我觉得确实是非常棒。像我们这个这么高质量的啊，我觉得这个一定要做下去。反正这个对吧？以后你们一直做下去，我肯定是多支持的，肯定就会筹款的，不用担心。那个孩子那么优秀，真的很优秀。你看一个个孩子，我就今天我就听了，哎呀，我觉得真是好。本来我真的是不以为那个Martin 这个有点那个意外哈。但是呢，他确实是人家就是找像他这样的孩子，非常 determined， 非常就是他这个线路很清楚。所以说，我觉得像我们这里长大的孩子，但是呢，那个谁是不一样的。那个 Frank 他是以他的那个，就像那个全能王来有竞赛啊，有什么呀，来取胜的，因为他后来